Christmas is supposed to be the most cheerful day of the year. As families unite to enjoy Christmas dinner and unraveling presents, you can say that this day is the happiest day for anyone. Unfortunately for me, Christmas was the day when I saw my parents' true colors. Season's greeting to everyone. My name is Spencer, and I'm going to tell you the story of how my heartless parents disowned me and kicked me out during a snowstorm. But a Christmas miracle saved me as I live happily while my parents live in misery. Growing up, my parents would never appreciate my valiant effort throughout my childhood. I would always participate in sporting events and gain good grades. But my parents didn't care about anything I did. All they could think about was money and what to spend it on. See, I had a grandmother who was diagnosed and at the end of December would be her final day. So my parents would play good parents in front of my grandmother and become themselves when at home. One day, when I was sitting on the couch, my father grabbed me as my mother opened the door, and my father threw me out. What are you doing?
We can't have random strangers living with us or mooching off of us.
Right, dear. So we are kicking you out as we don't view you as a son. Realizing that I just got disowned, I threatened to expose them. But my father quickly grabbed me and threatened me.
Don't ever think of doing that or I'll put you beneath the snow.
I was afraid of my father after he threatened me. Then he let go of me and I left the house to search for a place to stay. As I was walking around, a snowstorm started heavy. But without money, no hotels or motels were able to shelter me, even after telling them what had happened to me. I was walking in the street feeling cold and hungry when I stumbled upon a cardboard box that was big enough for me to sleep in. I took the box and located an area where the snow didn't touch the ground. So I placed the box and took shelter, hoping to survive the storm. While trying to maintain warmth, I started to pray for a miracle that could help me. As I finished, an elderly man approached me as I was about to sleep. He wore a Santa Claus costume and looked jolly.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas!
Oh, could you please help me?
What's wrong?
When he asked me that, I broke down into tears and told him everything that happened to me, from my childhood to now. The elderly man's face changed from being jolly happy to becoming horrified and sympathetic.
I can't believe that your parents had done such a terrible thing to a kind-hearted soul.
I guess they only wanted me to gain profit.
Nonsense! You are their precious child who should be loved and cared for. Also, you are a human, and humans aren't made to be used as a tool of greed. Where are your parents?
It wouldn't matter what you say to them. Not only did they throw me out, but they also disowned me. They even threatened to take my life away if I returned. The elderly man was shocked to hear such terrible events that struck him. So, could you please spare some change for me?
I'm afraid that I have no money for you, but I can't let a person like you suffer anymore.
The elderly man grabbed my hand and directed me to his car.
Come with me. I will offer you shelter.
The car that the elderly man had was an expensive, all-terrain sports car. I got in the car and started to feel warm again. The old man drove me to his house, and when I saw it, I was astounded. This elderly man lives in a mansion with a large garden. As we got into his garage, we got off and he invited me to his house. As we entered the house, I was fascinated as I saw many wonderful things such as beautiful art paintings, and the interior design was astounding. As I was fascinated with everything I saw, the elderly man invited me to eat dinner with him. Thank you so much for your kindness and generosity. I don't know how to repay your kindness.
You don't have to think about repaying me. I am more than happy to help people who suffered misfortune such as you. But I must ask, why did they disown you now?
Well, I turned 18 a couple of weeks ago, and my grandmother was closing in on her last day. So they probably thought that they could use me as a sympathy card to persuade my grandmother to give my parents her inheritance to support me.
Once the snowstorm ends, we will drive to the hospital where your grandmother is, and we will tell her what happened.
I tried to tell him not to do this, but he was persistent, and eventually, I agreed to his demand. After finishing eating, he told me that I could sleep in the guest room. As he escorted me to the guest room, I saw a beautiful goddess standing on the stairs.
Irina, this is Spencer. He'll be staying with us until he can get back on his feet.
It is a pleasure to meet you, Spencer. After the introductions, the elderly man escorted Spencer to the guest room. Before going to sleep, he asked the elderly man a question. Could I ask for your name?
Oh, yeah. I forgot to introduce myself. You can call me Mr. Robinson. Now, you must rest, for tomorrow will be a new day.
Following Mr. Robinson's advice, I went to sleep and thought about what he meant about what he said. The next day when morning came, I woke up to find new clothes on the bed with a note and breakfast that was ready on top of the drawer. While eating breakfast, I read Mr. Robinson's note.
Hello, Spencer. I made you breakfast and got you some new clothes for you to wear. When you're finished eating and dressed up, I'll be waiting in the garage to head to your grandmother's hospital.
After eating breakfast and dressing up, I headed to the garage when I ran into Irina. But when I wanted to greet her, she walked past me and went to her room. I brushed it off and went to meet Mr. Robinson. I met Mr. Robinson in the garage. We both got in the car, and we went to see my grandmother. A few minutes later, we arrived at the hospital and we went to my grandmother's room. Upon arriving, there were other relatives that came to see my grandmother. But my parents weren't even there. When my grandmother saw me, she was happy to see me and welcomed me. As I entered the room, Mr. Robinson also entered, and everyone was wondering who this mysterious man was. My dear, who is this fine gentleman with you? When she asked me that question, I broke down into tears and told everyone what happened. Everyone was shocked to hear what happened to me. To make what I saw more believable after I finished telling them what happened, Mr. Robinson told them where I was on the day I was tossed out into the street. Everyone was showing sympathy towards me while expressing their disgust towards my parents. My grandmother was more shocked to hear what they did to me. My dear boy, I feel sorry for you to have suffered such neglect and abuse from these awful people. Also, I want to thank you, Mr. Robinson, for rescuing and caring for my precious grandson.
It was nothing, really. I love to help anyone in need.
After my grandmother thanked Mr. Robinson, everyone wanted to teach my parents a lesson. But my grandmother assured them that justice will be served, and instructed everyone to keep this a secret. So everyone agreed to keep it a secret and said their goodbyes. Right when we were about to leave, my grandmother told me something that will be forever in my heart.
Please don't forget to share this podcast on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and so on. Thanks for your support. Check out our YouTube channel by clicking the link in this episode description. And also, kindly please rate and review this podcast. Bye.